This is Luxembourg, the richest country in the world. The average salary here is $65,000 a year, and more than 1 in 6 residents is a millionaire. Yet despite its immense wealth, Luxembourg faces a striking paradox. 1 in 5 people are either at risk of poverty or living in severe material deprivation. This poverty rate is among the highest in Western Europe, almost double that of the United States, and it's not a temporary spike caused by the pandemic. Poverty in Luxembourg has been steadily rising since 2000, with its location in the heart of Western Europe. Low corporate taxes and strict banking secrecy laws, Luxembourg became an attractive destination for financial institutions. But the country's prosperity has come at a cost. The housing market is under immense pressure. Property prices have skyrocketed, and poverty rates are climbing. Much of Luxembourg's housing stock is already owned and passed down within families, never entering the market. But Luxembourg's population density is actually low half that of the UCASO space ISNT, the main issue. Developers and private owners benefit from rising values, creating a jackpot mentality where holding idle land is more profitable than developing it. Planning regulations are often manipulated to delay construction, further choking the housing supply, especially among the young and less educated. Cross-border workers compound the issue. Nearly half of Luxembourg's workforce lives in neighboring countries like France, Belgium, or Germany. If Luxembourg fails to act, the divide between its wealthiest and most vulnerable will only widen, threatening its reputation as a prosperous and inclusive society. These commuters drive up demand for services and housing, but tease the local housing shortage, in fact. Many rent apartments in Luxembourg during the week, crowding out local residents. As a result, Luxembourg has Europe's lowest level of social housing, with just 5,000 units, which leaves 40,000 people already below the poverty line, unable to compete for homes. Policies like higher taxes on vacant land, penalties for keeping properties undeveloped, and ambitious targets for social housing drawing lessons from Austria or the Netherlands could make a real difference. Collaboration with neighboring countries on shared housing projects could also help ease the cross-border squeeze. The real problem is land ownership. 5% of people control 50% of all available land. Meanwhile, real wages haven't kept up with housing costs, and unemployment is growing. You might expect a booming finance sector to provide jobs for locals, but many new positions require highly specialized skills. Young people, low-skilled workers, and non-EU migrants are often left behind. Luxembourg's education system, despite high investment, doesn't always prepare students for the realities of today's job market. And language barriers further disadvantage non-native speakers. This concentration stems from historical patterns, where land once owned by the church was passed to a few wealthy families, and Luxembourg has done little to break up these holdings. Unlike other European countries, it hasn't implemented meaningful land reforms. And with low property taxes and generous inheritance exemptions, there's little incentive for landowners to sell or build. And new homes simply aren't being built fast enough. Despite the population nearly doubling since the 1970s, mostly due to immigration, housing construction has barely budged. In 1985, there were about 1.2 new dwellings built per person moving to Luxembourg. Today, it's just 0.3. Currently, only around 3,000 new homes are built annually, far below the 30,000 experts say are needed. Worse yet, construction is expected to drop by 50% by 2024 compared to just 2 years prior. The root cause is straightforward and extraordinarily high cost of living. Housing prices are 87% higher than the European average, and the cost of renting a modest one-bedroom apartment often exceeds €3,000 a month. For a typical household, monthly living expenses surpass €5,500, pushing many residents to the brink. From just 37 banks in the 1970s, the number exploded by over 700% to 223 by 1996, cementing its place as a major European investment hub. This shift transformed the economy. Luxembourg went from prosperous to one of the world's wealthiest nations by the late 1990s, with GDP per capita growing more than tenfold in just 20 years. Zoom out and the reason becomes clear. from 2010 to 2022. Housing prices more than doubled, soaring by 140%. With 60% of that increase happening in just the last 4 years, today an average home costs around 1.2 million euros. This housing crisis starkly contrasts with the image of Luxembourg as a wealthy European financial hub. This is the story of how the richest country in the world became a place where poverty is on the rise. But that's precisely the issue. Finance has created a small, powerful elite that owns most of the country's land, restricting affordable housing and limiting new construction. Only 2% of Luxembourg's housing stock is affordable, and even if you qualify, the average wait time is 5 years. There's no question that finance has made Luxembourg incredibly wealthy, but it has also exposed a growing dark side that can no longer be ignored. To understand how a nation so rich found itself here, we need to look back. Luxembourg hasn't always been a financial powerhouse. Its early economic strength came from heavy industry, specifically steel. Throughout the 20th century, Luxembourg's steel was used to build iconic structures worldwide, including the Empire State Building and the Golden Gate Bridge. At its peak in 1974, 1 in 6 Luxembourgers worked in the steel industry. Generations depended on these mills, but things changed dramatically when global steel prices collapsed. Within 8 years, steel production fell by half, and thousands lost their jobs, leaving entire towns facing economic uncertainty. Just as Luxembourg was reeling, another industry emerged: finance. Today, finance accounts for around 1/3 of Luxembourg's economy, and directly or indirectly supports 1 in 5 jobs. Housing is the single biggest factor driving people into poverty. You might assume the country's tiny size leaves no room for new development. This land banking locks up space, restricting supply and driving prices higher. Consequently, more people are falling through the cracks, some even forced to live in tents as homelessness rises. Additionally, Luxembourg's generous welfare system can unintentionally trap people in unemployment. High taxes and low incentives to take low-wage jobs make it financially rational for some to stay out of work. Where does this leave Luxembourg? Meaningful change will require political courage to challenge vested interests. But these reforms will face stiff resistance from powerful elites who benefit from the current system. Yet Luxembourg has reinvented itself. Before moving from steel to finance, it certainly has the means to do it again.